Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 255, and this show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. I go least favorite to best pick of the week, so let's get started. This was a small week for me for some reason, I guess because it's the 5th Wednesday. I only had 14 books, but what was number 14? And that was Marvel 2-in-1, issue 9. Just felt like this was a repetitive issue, especially because Fantastic Four is already out, and we've seen Johnny upset with Ben in that issue, and obviously previous issues of Marvel 2-in-1 as well. So having the same thing happen, I did like that Johnny forgave Ben by the end, and I like that he gets to see his sister, so finally it does look like it's tying into the Fantastic Four. But I did not like the artwork here. I just felt like the artwork was very rushed. I didn't see the detail in their faces or their body. Just felt really rushed, the artwork. So I'm going to give this one 2 stars, and that is number 14. Moving on to number 13, which is Scarlet, issue 1. Not a bad issue, but because I've read so much Bendis, it just feels like everything else he's ever written. It doesn't feel new by any means, but the reason why this wasn't worst pick of the week is because I love the artwork here. I mean, that's the reason why I got it. I love this cover. I like the tone of the book. And there's some really cool art stuff here, like Scarlet herself, I guess her name's Scarlet, the way she narrates, so we get to see like the regular boxes, but then when we get to see her face and she's talking to the audience, you have those same boxes instead of the word balloons. I thought that was really creative. And then also just the Portland stuff I thought was really cool. So the artwork is magnificent for this book. But the story really did not grab me for this one. And I feel like Scarlet's voice, again, is a Jessica Jones and every other character that Brian Michael Bendis has written, especially for his, his independent stuff. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. It didn't grab me to get the next issue, but like I said, the artwork was something to be wowed about. So it was kind of a conflicting issue at the same time. So that's number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Long Lost Part 2, Issue 2. There's some interesting developments here. We see that our main characters were in the forest for 3 years, so things have changed. And I like that, I believe it was Piper, who, the sister of the main character, she hurts herself and her aunt helps her out to, try to sew her back, and then she drinks this moonshine and she starts, going a little delirious, calling Jody, who's her aunt, her mom. So I thought that was an interesting scene, and we'll see where that goes. And we get to see Frances interacting with her mom. So there's some small character moments I really liked about this issue, but it's still a very slow burn. I love the artwork. That's one thing I really enjoy about this series a lot, is the unique art style. Kind of this cartoony look, but still haunting with the black and white grayscale of it all. So I do like that. So I gave that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is Edge of Spider-Geddon, issue 2. If you're a mecha fan, I think you're going to really enjoy this. If you're not, it's a little bit more geared to those fans. For me, I could like some mecha anime, but I'm not in that fandom. It has to be a very rare, good mecha anime for me to enjoy it. But I like the aesthetic of this. I think that's what I was most impressed with. I really like the art style. Again, it's just mecha robots with Venom and Spider-Man intertwined in this. So that was cool. And to get a new point of view with Penny, obviously being a Peter Parker type character like all these characters. So you get a different version of Aunt May and Uncle Ben. I thought that was cool. But I never really felt invested in the fight between the Venom and Spider-Man, and that kind of took me out of it. Maybe because I'm not as hardcore of a mecha fan. But like I said, I like the aesthetic of it. And it was a middle ground Edge of Spider-Verse story. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. Now it's number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is Catwoman and Tweety and Sylvester, issue 1. It's actually the first issue of the Looney Tunes books I've gotten. I know a lot of them come out, but none of them really interested me. But this one I thought was cool, and then I found out Gail Simone was writing it, and I was like, cool, I gotta pick it up. And if you really like Gail Simone's DC Comics stuff, pick this up. It really, I think, pays homage to a lot of stuff she's done. You get some Secret Six, you get some Birds of Prey, you get some, I believe Barbara Gordon's in here too. You get all the characters that, you know, she likes to write. So I thought that was cool. And what it is, it's Catwoman on Sylvester's side. It's obviously Black Canary on Tweety's side, and they get to find out that they're under a spell, and that's why all this is happening. It's a fun issue. I will say it's a bit long. I don't think a story like this needed to be an annual size. I wish it was just kind of a regular issue, and I know it's, you know, there's supposed to be one-shots and you had to fill up those pages, but I thought it was a little bit too long. Maybe there could have been 2 stories. It's weird to say that because I usually don't say that about annuals. There was that second cartoonier story though, the shorter one. Maybe they could have made that longer. That was cute. It's a cute issue, and like I said, if you like Gail Simone, it's a lot of her cool DC writing here, and a lot of the characters she likes to write interacting with each other on a fun level of, you know, cat and mouse chase, or cat and bird chase here. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars, a solid artwork as well. I do like the cover art a little bit more than interior. The cover art is amazing. Look at that. That's really what got me to pick that up. I was really excited from the cover. Alright, moving on to number 9, which is Jessica Jones, issue 2, which is a digital release book by Marvel Comics, which is harder to keep up with those, because, you know, when you get your printed books, you look through them, but digital, I don't, you know, go on Comixology as often, so it's just like, alright, I gotta remember Jessica Jones comes out. So from this list, I'm gonna be trying to obviously keep up with Jessica Jones and Daughters of the Dragon. Those are 2 books I want to try to read from the Marvel digital first releases. But yeah, Jessica Jones, I think issue 2 wasn't as good as issue 1, but I like the second part, because technically this is like issue 3 and 4, because there's like 2 issues in one. And that's something I like and dislike. I like that you get a lot of content with this book, but at the same time, I don't know if I needed 2 issues at once. I like the 1 issue at a time. It was a lot to read, but I like the second part as a Spider-Man fan, because we get to see this villain who ends up, you know, getting the powers of his girlfriend who can wish stuff, has these 2, you know, identities, and ends up killing Mary Jane. And Peter is all messed up, and Jessica's like, oh God, you know, Peter, go away, you don't want to hurt anybody. And then she's like, oh, let's see if Mary Jane will survive like I did, and see if the villain will able to revive her, and she does. She's like, alright, I'm out. So that was a lot of fun. I'm not a big Elsa Bloodstone fan, so the first part of this issue, where it was mainly her and Jessica teaming up, didn't, you know, do it as much for me. I liked it because they have very similar personalities, but at the same time, that's why I disliked it. There was no contrast that was being played off. You know, I think Jessica works better with a fun personality, a bit more of a, you know, upbeat personality, and having 2 Jessicas pretty much just made it a little bogged down. But the artwork is also really good for this book. I love the way Spider-Man was drawn, very classic, and I like the little pictures that show the detail of the characters, so that was cool too. So overall, I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. It wasn't as good as the first issue, but still a fun series, and Thompson knows how to write detective stories. I think that's been proven. Alright, moving on to number 8. A little lower also than the first issue, but still a good read, and that is Extermination issue 2. I love this cover. We get to see our X-Men as hounds. And artwork, also not as good as the first issue, but still good art. It reminds me of Amenon's art. I never pronounced his last name right. But his artwork, Stuart Amenon's artwork. And I like the build-up. It's a little bit slower because, you know, you gotta put pieces together, but it's the X-Men trying to protect the first-class X-Men. They don't want protecting until, you know, bad things happen, and they realize they have to be protected. And we get to see more characters turn into the Hounds, so things are getting worse as it continues. I do think there are some more surprises in the first issue, which I liked, but overall I'm still really intrigued to see where the story goes, and I like the, you know, the connective tissue of actually feeling like the X-Men are connected again, and that's been a big positive for this series. So overall I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 7. That was issue 2. That was number 8. Sorry about that. I just realized I said that. Moving on to number 7, which is Hunt for Wolverine, Dead Ends, issue 1, another X-Men, I guess, event book. I feel like if you read the miniseries, there's a lot of re-explaining, which I didn't really like. It's a lot of exposition to kind of get to the point. And also, you don't really get to see Wolverine in this issue, which is disappointing, which I guess with all the other Hunt for Wolverine series, you should expect that. But there's some really good action here. It's cool to see different dynamics, like Kitty teaming up with Daredevil, and obviously that makes sense because Charles Soule writes Kitty really well, and obviously writes Daredevil as a series, so it's cool to see that. So my favorite scene, though, is Kitty having these ships go down to the middle of the earth using her phasing powers. I thought was a really cool moment. So there's some good action in this issue. But just kind of wish there was more, well, I'll say less explaining, but more surprises here. It just, I expected a little bit more from this issue. But I think they're saving it for the return of Wolverine, which comes out soon. Comes out in the 19th of September. So gotta wait for that issue. And I do like Rosano's artwork a lot. I like his expressions. I've always enjoyed his artwork. So giving this one 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 6, a little lower than usual as well, and that is Miss Marvel issue 33. I feel like this story arc is going longer than it needed to. It's so a one-shot story arc of like, cool, Bruno, Miss Marvel are teaming up again. But it just kind of keeps going of Kamala fighting the Shocker, which is fun. Like, I had a fun time reading it, but I want to see a little bit more, because obviously there's other characters to explore with this series, and, you know, Miss Marvel not being able to use her powers is cool, but I don't know how many issues we need to see that for. I just felt like this was a little bit of a filler in a way, or maybe just a filler arc, I don't know. But yeah, I gave this one 3.5 stars. I love the art, and it's still a lot of fun. I like Kamala against the Shocker and Bruno trying to figure stuff out. It's still fun, classic Miss Marvel, but I wanted a little bit more from this issue, a little extra for this issue. This felt like a by the numbers Miss Marvel issue instead of a nostalgic Miss Marvel issue. Like the last one. I like the last issue a bit more. So I'm giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is X-23 issue 3. A really fun issue and some of the best artwork I've seen from Cable. Love this action sequence with, well, first of all, that's cool. But we get to see some flips with X-23 here, and some really cool paneling, where we get to see the Cuckoos go into Laura's mind, that way she doesn't see Gabby. I thought that was a really cool panel, or a couple of panels. We also get to see, like, the inner workings of a clone, of Laura, so that was cool. There's another panel I was really impressed with, I think by the end of the issue. Let me see. Oh, I think it was the last page. Look at that angle. Seeing her claws, that was so cool. So that's something that really impressed me this issue, was the artwork. I really enjoyed that. It's a solid issue. It's a little slower. It's just Laura trying to get Gabby, but there's some good emotions here, and we finally get the answer of, like, kind of why she changed her name, and that she still hates her name as X-23. It looks like it connects to the Orphan X stuff. Maybe she made a deal with them. I wish that was on panel, but hopefully you get more answers to that, and that was just a prelude to the answers of why she's being called X-23. But good stuff. I like the Cuckoos as a villain. I like utilizing the clone story in a different way, and that's been something really unique for this first story arc of X-23. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, and that is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Shattered Grid issue 1. I did an in-depth review for this, so I won't go too much into detail, but I thought it was a solid issue, and Shattered Grid is exactly what an event book should strive for. You can tell how much passion and time they put into this book. You know, having only 2 writers being in the forefront of writing this event, and only having, I think, like 2 or 3 artists on this book with so many pages is just so great to see, because a lot of times with events, like, oh, we need to fill artists because we don't have enough time, and they rush it. It seems like they planned this very far ahead, so you can really get a perfect product, and that's something I was very happy with. There was never a delay for Shattered Grid, so I applaud Power Rangers for that, just the product that we got, and I feel like that was proven with this last issue as well. I definitely had nitpicks with it. I didn't love that Tommy had to be the character to be, you know, the final person to defeat Lord Drakkon. I thought, hey, we've seen this before, and something I've loved about Shattered Grid, even though Lord Drakkon's been the main villain, it's been about the other Rangers. You get so much with Kimberly, you get a lot with Jason and Lauren, so I like that about Shattered Grid, and this kind of takes it back a little. Even like the Kimberly kiss, I felt like took away some of the development of, you know, making her character less defined by her relationship with Tommy. So there's some reverting in this issue, but overall, there's some good action, and obviously I still like the Tommy versus Tommy stuff. It is some good stuff there, and some good character stuff, but just, I've seen it before, you know, Tommy's always in the forefront. But still, I also like the ending. You know, obviously we can see where they're going to be taking this series. Marguerite Bennett, really excited to see what she's going to do with it. It's going to be an awesome team. Ranger Slayer, Grace is going to be in it. But yeah, it was a good issue. It was a solid issue for me. So, but not as good as issue 30. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Now, number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Batgirl issue 26. I really like the vibe of this one. I will say the artwork was a little bulky, but it felt like early 2000s Batman to me, which I liked. Or, you know, early 2000 Bat Family, like the Robin stuff. I like that aspect. And it was darker. It was, and one thing I really liked about you know, both Batgirl issues this week was that it mixed the tone of Burnside Batgirl and Gail Simone Batgirl perfectly. It's like everything, you know, if you liked Gail Simone Batgirl, there's something to like here. If you enjoyed Burnside Batgirl, there's something here as well. You get to see the eidetic memory, the usage of that, which I thought was one of the best aspects of Burnside Batgirl. And then you get to see the trauma of the Killing Joke and how Barbara deals with that. And that's, in my opinion, the best part of Gail Simone's run. And here we get to see kind of a drawn out chase scene with this villain, but once we figure out her connection with the villain, that's when things start getting interesting, where this villain uses death as this grotesque art form, and obviously that brings her, you know, Barbara back to the Killing Joke and what Joker did to her, so it becomes personal, which I liked. And in the big shock, which, sorry, pun, I guess, we get to see Barbara actually shocked, and her, you know, her chip that allows her to walk is affected. And you can see, like, she's wobbly, she's not really thinking right, her memory is not as good. And then she ends up going to her dad's place, you know, to the, you know, the police station to see her, not to see her dad, but to get information from the computer, and she ends up seeing her dad, and she collapses. She has, like, a seizure, and you know, obviously, James is like, oh my god, my daughter, what's happening? And that's a good cliffhanger. Like, alright, you sold me. I can't wait to see what happens. So I thought it was a really solid issue, and again, I really just like the tone of this book. I think it can make Burnside fans happy and Gail Simone Batgirl fans happy, and you hook us in the end totally to give us something different and fresh. So I really liked it, and I'm excited to see where this creative team takes it. So I'm gonna give this 4 stars. But an issue I enjoyed even more was Batgirl Annual issue 2. This is my number 2, and goes back to Gail Simone's run of Batgirl. We go full throttle between James Gordon Jr., you know, Barbara's brother, and Barbara herself, where she sees these murders, and it reminds her of her brother's, you know, work, and she, you know, uses her detective skills to figure out what's happening, and everything leads back to her brother, and her brother is psychotic and tries to make a, you know, a relationship with her again, and Barbara doesn't trust him, of course, and these real emotions come out. They're like shouting at each other, and I love these scenes, some really good emotional scenes. But what I really liked is when Barbara leaves and said, oh, you know, forget you. she leaves, and then what James thinks, she's like, he says, you are a lot more like me than you think. And, you know, it goes back to the Gail Simone run where she tries to kill him pretty much to save their mother. And when they were watching, you know, these serial killer movies with each other, and that she was happy to see it. She was smiling. So it's cool to kind of see that connection, how James thinks of his sister, and hopefully we get to see more of them. I was really happy to see, oh, and I just realized they have the new costume in the back here too. But yeah, I hope we get to see more of James, and I like that it's been a couple of years since Simone's run, but finally someone's picking up the pieces that Simone left for another writer to take. So I gave this one 4 stars. I really liked both issues, and I'm looking forward to seeing where Batgirl goes. Number 1, I gushed over this already in my in-depth review, so I won't gush too much here, but Runaways issue 12. This is amazing. I love this issue. We get it all. We get, and first of all, let me just talk about the artwork here first. Chris Anka's artwork is just brilliant. The designs of the characters, the dresses of Nico and Carolina, amazing. I have to show you a page of that. Like, look at that. How much detail is put into that, and the facial expressions. We get a lot of emotional moments here between Gert and Victor, so you get to really feel those emotions, and also these bottle up feelings between Nico and Carolina in this issue that Chris just does such a great job at portraying. You could just watch the pages and really feel the emotions of these characters, which I just love. I love the artwork here, and Matthew Wilson's colors just are amazing too. He's definitely the best colorist of the industry right now with both this series and Paper Girls. It just really puts you into the mood of the series, which is exactly what a colorist should do. And now going into the story, I mean, everything was perfect for me. You get a really surprising story between Gert and Victor, you know, this blossoming romance between the two because they're going through similar emotional stuff. And then you get the story that I think a lot of Runaways fans knew was coming, but in such a delightful way between Carolina and Nico, where Nico really figures out her feelings and, you know, is coming out to Carolina in a way, and Carolina's worried and nervous about this because she doesn't want to be rejected again and kind of get her hopes up, but then finally they kiss and they're together and they're happy. And of course when they're happy, this one character has to show up and screw it all up, and that's Alex. So that was just like the perfect bow to tie this amazing Runaways issue together. So I loved it. I just can't wait to see where this series goes. It just was so perfect for me. So I gave that 5 stars, and that was my number 1 pick. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.